Hey, how you doing? It's good to see you. Hope you been doing okay. Hey, today we're going to talk punctuation. We're going to go through. Do you hear something? No. Anyway, we're going to go through pronoun antecedent agreement. What's going on? Do you hear that? What's happening? What could that be? Oh no! I think it's what I think it is. No, no! It's the comma. Ah! Uh, I teach college. This is the scariest punctuation mark ever. The comma. So misused. Maw. The lead is everything. That took me about 4 seconds to think of that lead. Can you tell? Anyway, it's good to see you. Welcome. Let's get started on the supplemental that I sent you. It's called Punctuation Video Supplemental. Not creative at all, but effective because it tells you exactly what we're going to talk about. So you need your, and of course you might have to pause me at various times. You need your AP style book and you need your textbook as I go through the rest of the list of the document that's in files called AP style book topics. We've gotten all the way through to the punctuation section. So that's what we will talk about now. So let's get started. The colon is the first thing. So your punctuation section's in the back of the book. I forget, mine starts around page 300, 303 actually. I don't touch on all of these. For instance, apostrophe is the first one, and some of you are putting apostrophes when you are just making words plural for some reasons. Like you'll say Saturdays are a fun day uptown, and you'll put apostrophe S. I'm not sure why you're getting that or where you're getting that, but if you need to go through the apostrophe section, it's there for you. We're going to go though to the colon, which is there's only really one part that I need you to know, and that's in my book. It's on the second paragraph, which says capitalize the first word after a colon only if it is a proper noun or the start of a complete sentence. And they give you an example where they do capitalize the first word after a colon, and then an example where they don't. So pretty simple. If it's a proper noun after the colon, or if there's a complete sentence after the colon, then use it. Colon is what I call an anticipatory punctuation mark. It means that when you use it, there's a feeling as people are reading your prose that there's a feeling of anticipation, something's about to happen. So it can be an extremely effective use as long as you understand how to use it properly with capitalization. The semicolon also is an anticipatory punctuation mark. You use it to combine two sentences that are of the same theme. I will caution you about the use of semicolons. Most people get them wrong. Abraham Lincoln loved them. He always called the semicolon a useful little chap, and it can be because you do create a sense of anticipation with your readers, but you have to use it correctly. There has to be a full sentence before and after a semicolon. It is as powerful and works just like a period does. And if you're not sure how to use a semicolon, don't use a semicolon. A period won't get you in trouble usually. All right. That takes us to comma, and if you'll notice on the list, there's a lot of commas, a lot of topics with the comma that go along with this document. So we're going to start with in a series. The job of punctuation is just to make things clear. That's it. And there is a second meaning with punctuation, and that is to manipulate readers. You're able to decide through punctuation a lot of times how quickly or how slowly you want people to read your writing. Um, we've talked about that with paragraph structure, with purposeful sentence structure, where you have choppy sentences that make people slow down. But in this case, punctuation can do the same thing. So under comma, the first one is in a series, and this is the Oxford comma. This is when, according to AP Stylebook, you don't put a comma before the conjunction in a simple series. They give you an example in the book. The flag is red, white, and blue. It should be red, comma, white, but no comma before the and. I know some of you love the Oxford comma. There are lots of folks who are advocates of it, who believe that it should always be used. AP Style says it is not needed unless it's needed. And if you keep reading through in a series, there are a couple of times when you should use an Oxford comma. If you have something in the series that requires a conjunction, and they give you an example, I had orange juice toast and ham and eggs for breakfast, there is an Oxford comma used there because ham and eggs is a singular thing. So it's an extra and the comma helps alleviate any confusion. The second one is if your series is really long. It's not just a few words, and they give you an example of a series that is very long in length, then that comma can help readers discern between that second and final item, or the penultimate and ultimate item. So know that I'm not hardcore, never Oxford comma. I go along with the AP style book. Makes perfect sense to me. If it's needed for clarity, use it. If it's not needed for clarity, don't use it. All right. That's in a series. Next one is with non-essential and essential clauses, and students have just tons of problems with these sections. So in this punctuation guide, it tells you to go to essential clauses and non-essential clauses in the main section. So let's do that. I'm not going to read all this to you because you can read, but this, when I was growing up, we called them restrictive and non-restrictive clauses, but they're trying to make them a little bit more understandable by saying, are they essential or are they non-essential? So if they are essential, you don't put commas around them. So if you look under the essential clauses, non-essential clauses section, under punctuation, they give you examples where you do or where you don't need commas. If it's essential, no commas. If it's non-essential, then you must put commas around them. I have put a link for you. It's called chompchomp.com under the non-essential clauses and phrases to help clarify this. And so I really like that website. I think it helps you out pretty clearly of exactly what you need to do. Also in the style book, after that one section is essential phrases and non-essential phrases when you do need a comma, for instance, before the name of a person. I'll say this isn't a hard and fast rule, but what I've found is when it comes to commas overall, read your sentences out loud. And if you feel yourself pausing at a certain spot, then you probably need a comma. If you read that sentence out loud and it doesn't feel natural to pause, then you probably don't need a comma. So if I have a sentence like, sophomore Bill Smith went to the game, there's no pause between sophomore and Bill Smith. It's just, you just naturally say, without any pause, sophomore Bill Smith went to the game. So there should not be a comma between sophomore and Bill. All right, so you should always be reading your sentences out loud anyway, but one of the best, and that way you'll hear repetitive words, repetitive sentence structure. But when you can read your sentences out loud, you'll also feel where the commas can go. All right. The next one is back in the punctuation section where we go to commas still. And this one is with introductory clauses and phrases. The style book says that you don't need a comma after a short introductory phrase if no ambiguity would result. I disagree with that. I'm going to tell you, I want to see a comma always with an introductory phrase. And they give you an example when to use one in this section. When he had tired of the mad pace of New York, he moved to Dubuque. Now, again, if you read that sentence out loud, I paused and took a breath naturally after the words New York. Comma goes there. In the example where they say you don't need one, the sentence is, during the night he heard many noises. My problem with that sentence is I could read it, during the night he, and then as I read the rest of the sentence, I realize, oh, wait a minute. I was anticipating something like, during the night that he couldn't sleep, he heard many noises. But instead, the pause should be, during the night, he heard many noises. Without a comma there, I misread it. And then that's frustrating for readers, when including this reader. It's frustrating when we realize, oh, the pause is there, and the author did not put the pause there. So I'm saying always, always, always put a comma with introductory clauses and phrases. These can be a single word where you might type, actually, the professor didn't give us a quiz. That's only one word, but there should be a comma after that introductory clause or phrase. All right, that's an always one. It happens almost always when you pull the end of a sentence up to the front of a sentence, so the subject doesn't lead off the sentence. In that first example in the book, the sentence should naturally read, he moved to Dubuque when he had tired of the mad pace of New York. But this author has pulled the end of the sentence back up to the front, which is perfectly fine. Varying sentence structure. As soon as you do that, you need to recognize that you have to put a comma in there. Right? The next one is with conjunctions, and I think you know about conjunctions and, or, and, but, or, and if you have a sentence on one side of the conjunction and a sentence on the other side of the conjunction, you have to put a comma before the conjunction. They give you a couple examples here, including we are visiting Washington, comma, and we also plan a side trip to Williamsburg. So you have two sentences. We are visiting Washington. We also plan a side trip to Williamsburg, and is in the middle, have to put a comma. However, if you have a double predicate where you don't have a sentence at the end, so if I were to say something like, we are visiting Washington and will then visit, Williamsburg, no comma, because will then visit Williamsburg is not a complete sentence. All right, so most of you do pretty well on that, but there's more information there in the style book if you need it. The next one is introducing direct quotations. You're going to start writing these stories with quotes in them. I highly suggest you study this part very carefully. When you do introduce a complete one-sentence quotation within a paragraph, then it shows you how to do that. You have Wallace said, and then a comma, and then the quote. I'm going to tell you that very rarely should you start with the attribution. Attribution means you're